I love this question, in part because it's kind of hard to answer. I actually really like the hard questions. This one, to me, is a little difficult. So why can a partition index make a query slower? When you partition an index, you're really changing the index structure. We're saying we want this index to be broken into partitions or chunks. Now, every partition of the index is still ordered by the key of that index. But overall, all the partitions are ordered by the partitioning column, which may be different than the leading key column in my index. So to use the data in these partitions, SQL Server has a more complicated job with a partition index, and sometimes it may have to check every partition, and it may make some bad decisions about how much it needs to read in each of those partitions sometimes. So occasionally we do need to tune it because the structure of the partition index is just different than the non-partition index. Now, this one's tricky because, at least for me, I always want to draw it out. So this is the kind of question that if I was in an in-person interview, I would be like, is it okay if I use the whiteboard a little bit? Because actually, drawing out the boundary points and the little index diagrams, I feel like would help me explain it. I feel like it's easier than using words. If you're in a phone screen or you don't have a whiteboard, then you might sort of take the attempt like I did at just doing it verbally and check in and ask, did I make it clear? Because I do think this is a tricky one to convey in words. You could take a different approach on this one, and you could say, okay, I'm going to pick a specific scenario and explain that optimization problem with top, min, max, for example. You could choose to say, I'm going to do a detailed one and say, against a row store index, SQL Server is really good at figuring out it can go straight to the end of the index and do a backward scan. Whereas when this is broken up into chunks, it isn't as good at figuring out it can do that same trick within each chunk without a rewrite. So there's a couple different approaches you could take with this. You could either be general, like I was, or pick a specific problem and dig into that one.